Hi, CC families. This is your week 21 memory work for cycle 2. It was so fun having all of your kiddos in the Abecedarian class today. It was a nice full class. We had a great time. I want to, just because I know we have newer families joining at this point, and so I want to just show you all the memory work is in the Foundations Guide. You probably already know that, but just in case, all of the memory work for all 3 cycles, every single week is laid out in here. So we're on cycle 2, week 21 for our memory work. And then it's all written in here, and then to be able to listen to it, there are the CD sets that you can buy. And this is all available on Classical Conversations website on their bookstore. This is actually the cycle 3 set, but my cycle 2 is in the van. We listen when we're in the car. So either this or the app, you can download the app for your iPad or iPhone. I don't know if they have it for Android, but that lets you listen to the timeline songs, the history songs, and then they say all of the memory work track by track on there as well. And then as a tutor, I show the history, the timeline cards in class every week. And so just to give you an idea, there's a full set that has timeline cards for every event and date on the timeline from creation up through modern, like the very end of the timeline. They give you some information on the back, which I think is helpful, especially as the kiddos get a little older and go a little more into the different events and people on the timeline. But on the front is a picture and the name or title or whatever of the event that we're learning in the timeline. So I always bring the ones just for that week to learn. So let's start with timeline. And this week we started with World War II and President Franklin D. Roosevelt. So we did our W, World War II, and President F. And if you're ambitious, you can do F for Franklin, D, R for Roosevelt. I think that goes a little quick. So we just did World War II and President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Stalin with his mustache. We do Stalin of the USSR and the Katyn massacre. And the sign for that is like a wall and like poking, stabbing behind the wall. The United Nations formed, and we just linked our fingers together. The United Nations formed. The Cold War. Gandhi, a little sign language G. Gandhi and India's, pointing to our forehead is the sign for India. Independence is make an I, hold up your pinky. It's actually 2 eyes, one with each hand, and kind of spread them apart. Gandhi and India's independence. Jewish, we're going to stroke like a long beard, Jewish, and then make an S and go state established. Mao, M for Mao, sign language M. Mao and communist, you can't see my fist because I'm sitting close to the laptop, but it's the communist fist in the air. Communist victory in China, and you go across your shoulders and down to your hip. It's like the symbol for the uniform that they would wear in China. And that is our new timeline for this week. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to review for you the first part of the timeline, which is what our class is going to sing at the end of the year feast, which you're welcome to attend, just because we're trying to brush that up and make sure we know the first part of the timeline for our presentation. So let's do history sentence. The music was amazing this week. So this is 1980s, where the question is, tell me about the Cold War. So we have some sweet 80s jams this week. In the 1980s, British, we always sip a cup of tea, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Okay, and we kind of did this sign, which is like thatching a roof. And U.S., hand on your heart, President Ronald, wait for it, Reagan, right? So Ronald Reagan, and we did like a ray gun because it kind of goes with the music. Worked together, clasp your hands, worked together to end the Cold War. lessen big government, we just put our hands down, and strengthen, show your muscles, the conservative movement, okay? And then you just kind of break it down. Um, the song lends itself to some fancy moves. So that is your history sentence about the end of the Cold War. Central America. Where is my we're doing Central America, and we had a little song to the tune of the wheels on the bus. So I have a little tiny map here, if you can see. And we sang, if you see like Central America, we start this week with the hump, Nicaragua and Honduras. So we said, oh, Central America, find the camel hump, Nicaragua, Honduras bump, El Salvador trapdoor, Guatemala, Belize makes a slice of cheese. There you go. So that's our Central America for this week. English, we learned about conjunction. So this was the first half of, we're using Father Abraham tune to do this week and next week. So this week was just the definition of conjunction. And so it went, a conjunction is a word used to connect words, phrases, or clauses together. And then next week's memory work will actually finish the song. And if you want to hear it all together, it goes, a conjunction is a word used to connect words, phrases, or clauses together. Coordinating conjunctions are for and nor, but, or, yet, so. So we'll do this basically the same thing again next week, because that's next week we're supposed to learn those conjunctions. And we did the movements to Father Abraham, right? So we sang it through once, moving our right arm, and then we repeated the whole thing, moving both arms, and so on, like you do with Father Abraham. It's a great way to repeat over and over and over. Latin, we are on first conjugation, pluperfect tense. And we tried to do a little hot potato passing Play-Doh little tub around and taking turns saying. It didn't really work. It got a little too chaotic, so then we just sang it through. Arum, eras, eret, aramis, eritis, erent. First conjugation, pluperfect tense. That's just the song that's on the CD. And we sang it through all together. For science, we are on the third law of thermodynamics. And so we said, what is the third law of thermodynamics? It is impossible to reach, we reached out, the state of absolute zero temperature. And then we would freeze because at absolute zero temperature, molecules stop moving. So we froze, and we did some different fun things with freezing like animals, or freezing with our hand out to get a little treat at the end. So that was fun. That's our third law of thermodynamics. Math was really difficult for us this week. It's the associative law for addition and the associative law for multiplication. And we tried, we didn't get quite through it. I had Post-its with all the different symbols for the equation. So parentheses, A, and I tried putting them all out on the board. We just didn't have the attention span to do the activity today with this. But I had every, parenthesis A plus B, parenthesis plus C. So we tried to chant it and clap, and this is what we're going to try to do. The associative law for addition, A plus B plus C equals A plus B plus C. So the claps are like the parentheses. And then the associative law for multiplication, A times B times C equals A times B times C. If you want, you can add associative law, grouping doesn't matter. So again, that one was a struggle just because of the length of it. but doing the clapping in place of the parentheses might be a way to help learn that and make it a little interactive. Let me do our timeline from early in the year to review that. So we are responsible for weeks 1 through 6 timeline for the song. So at the beginning of the track, we do timeline. This is my timeline, timeline, timeline. We'll start at the beginning of the age, and then we do like a beard. So age of ancient empire, creation to circa 450 AD. And then our motions, like the world, creation and the fall. Just put your hands down. The flood, right, coming up. And the Tower of Babel. Mesopotamia is the land between 2 rivers. So you divide your fingers, Mesopotamia, and this is the sign for rivers, and Sumer. We just do Mesopotamia and Sumer, Egyptians, and this is like their headdress or their crown that would have a snake off the front. 3008 BC, 3000 BC, Indus River Valley Civilization. Minoans, it's like bullhorns, Minoans, and Mycenaeans. It's a symbol for gold. They were into gold in their culture. 7 wonders of the ancient world. And then patriarchs of Israel. Put your thumb on your forehead and your fingers up. Let's see. 2000 BC, 2000 BC. And then this part moves quick. We're talking about people groups. We go Hittites. Canaanites is the bullhorns again. K, sign language K for Cush. And then draw a bow and arrow for Assyrians. Okay? And that moves quickly. Hittites, Canaanites, Cush, Assyrians. Babylonians, they had a lot of laws, I guess. You put your one arm out straight, and then your left hand, you kind of go up, like for a list of laws. Babylonians, China's Shang dynasty. And that symbol for China is the same that we used in our new timeline. We used that motion for China already. So China's Shang dynasty. That takes you through the first 2 weeks. Next week I'm going to add on weeks 3 and 4 in review time. And that will give us just enough time then to add on 5 and 6 as well. So practice up weeks 1 and 2 with the motions if you can. It's more important that they can sing it and know the words. So listen and practice the timeline from the very beginning up through, I think we should sing up through Jesus the Messiah, because week 6 ends with John the Baptist, and as Michaela always says, you just have to slide right on into Jesus the Messiah. So if you're listening and practicing learning the words, you can practice right up through Jesus the Messiah. And we'll do the best that we can. That's what I told them today. Said we'll do our best. So thanks for hanging in there. I know this was a longer video today. We had more to get through, but I hope that was helpful. So have a great week. We'll see you next time.